family. It's a family-owned and operated ice cream business as to whether we wanted to proceed, given the fact that we were looking at a little bit more of a financial investment than we had initially expected, and eventually we decided to pursue the project. We hired a land surveyor. We asked him to bring us into compliance with Section 19-2-10, and more specifically to address the deficiencies that were set forth in the town planner's letter of incompleteness, which was dated October 20th, I believe. We resubmitted our application on February 19th, and on March 12th we received a letter from the town planner which contained a summary of possible incomplete items, and that's what brings us here today. We brought this list of possible incomplete items to the attention of our land surveyor, and he addressed these items and provided us with plans which contain these revisions, which specifically address these items. Would be happy to give each of you one of these as we point out his revisions to specifically address these items if the board so desires. Is that something that...
I think if you have additional information, we typically don't review that the night of a plan, but if you want to leave it with Maureen, that's fine. If you can summarize what you have, feel free to go ahead and proceed.
If you want to join me here, my brother Jim. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 8 possible incomplete items. The first is the site plan does not include the area west of Route 77 that is within 100 feet of the property. That is the parking lot of the IGA across the street, and he has identified that on these plans. 5D says that the town engineer has requested radius dimensions, typical sections, site distances, and details of the driveway. We, the land surveyor and I, went out the other day and measured the site distances, which are included on that plan. The details of the driveway, we don't propose to make any grade changes in the driveway as it exists now. It's currently crushed stone, isn't it?
Stone dust.
And we're going to pretty much leave that the way it is, other than repairing any potholes or other problems that might arise after the snow melts. So radius, dimensions, sections, and details of the driveway, we don't propose any changes the way that it is, the way that it's going to stay. No handicap parking spaces are shown. We've designated number 6 on your plan as a handicap spot parking space. That was just an oversight on our part. 12A says that drainage flow arrows for stormwater have not been depicted on the plan. Those have been depicted on, he added those to this plan that we have here. And do you know more about that?
Just in his synopsis, it's shown where he notes where the drainage goes off to the south side, and that's noted on the new revision with arrows.
Okay, 12B states that the design and capacity of the existing subsurface disposal system has not been submitted. Ernie McVeigh asked us to do a soil study and to demonstrate that a second subsurface face disposal site could be added if necessary. And I have here, I just got this a couple days ago, Albert Frick and Associates from Gorham has conducted that study, and just to quote a sentence to summarize this, he said that there is additional land area on the property that would accommodate the replacement or expansion of the existing system should it ever become necessary. So that has been taken care of, and he has spoken with Ernie about that. As far as the capacity of the existing subsurface disposal system, we don't propose to expand beyond what it was used for before the Cape Fish and Farm Market. There's a bathroom located inside the building, and we don't expect to have any more than 2 employees at any time working in the store, which is the same as they had, maybe less, I'm not sure. And it's going to remain the same as it was. Location of the water line has not been depicted on the plan. That has been added to the revised plan. It's located next to the sign on the front lawn. The town engineer highlights that information on the radius of light and intensity and foot candles has not been submitted. Okay, the plan that you have, that shows 3 lights that are currently there. There's 2 on the building and there's 1 on the front lawn. They're 150 watts. And the electricity is not on, so we don't know how much more lighting we're going to need to just make a safe driveway at night. But those 3 and maybe 1 more, but it's hard to say until we have the electricity turned on and see what we're going to need there.
Yeah, it would obviously make it safe for customers and employees, but it's hard to get it's got the 3 lights there now, and it's hard to tell exactly what else we will need, but, yeah.
I don't think we'll need any on the building itself. The one that's on the front lawn is, as you look at the building, it's up in a tree on the left side of the driveway, so I'd imagine we'd need one in a tree on the right side of the driveway to illuminate that side of the driveway. And finally, the proposal for signage noted in the submission has not been included in the package. Our sign company, well, Scarborough Signs does all the signs for other stores. We have 4 other ice cream stores, and they have been working with Ernie on making a sign proposal. Ernie has said that there's a wooden structure on the front lawn, and Ernie has stated that we will be able to use that for a sign which does not contain movable letters, so just a sign which states Beal's Ice Cream. And the proposed sign is shown on the right of way.
That's where the existing frame is, and that's what we'd propose to use.
That's where it was for Cape Fish and Farm, and it's quite a ways off of Route 77. And like I said, Ernie has already stated that that frame would be able to be used for our ice cream store. So, those are the possible items of incompleteness, and most of them have been addressed on the this slightly revised plan that the land surveyor has prepared, and the sewage disposal is addressed in the letter from Frick Associates. So, are there any questions?
Okay, I think how we'll proceed here is number one, the board. It's important the board understands that there's a time frame that we're working within by ordinance, and the items again we're dealing with strictly with completeness issues, not the technical merit. And Judy Lardner, you can help us because you're very good at completeness issues. Don't always agree with you, but you're very good at it. At this point in time, I would turn it over to the rest of the board to ask questions, either of the applicant or the town planner. We're at a full complement of regular board members, so we don't need the associates as voters, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Any questions from the board? Comments? Tom?
I guess generally as I go down the outstanding issues as a list, it seems pretty extensive to me, but I look at the scale of the project and I'm not that nervous about them. I feel that substantial review of the project that is commenting on, there are other issues related to the project that I'd like to get to, but tonight isn't the appropriate time. Steve, Mr. Chairman, I always have an issue with completeness because completeness issues tend to also resolve around issues of design. In other words, if there's no landscaping on the plan, does that mean there's a design problem with the plan, or is it a completeness issue? I don't see any landscaping proposal here. I have questions about whether there should be paved areas and how you deal with handicapped accessibility that's not demonstrated on the plan. There are roadway edges that are depicted on the plan, but I hear that the plan is all gravel, so I don't know what those lines mean on the face of the earth. And realistically, when one goes to the site, if it's going to look any different, if it's going to look anything like the plan is depicting. I don't know if those are completeness issues. Since the plan doesn't tell me specifically how that issue is dealt with, I guess I could say that it is a completeness issue. I don't have a strong notion one way or the other. As a member of the Town Center Study Committee, we certainly want to encourage activity on this site. And we have general issues that we're dealing with in terms of this site being very important. And I have questions with respect to your involvement as are you strictly leasing this property, or are you in fact purchasing it and leasing it to a subsidiary?
We
so
are
to speak?
leasing it ourselves.
So you are not the owners of the site. The
No.
current owners will remain the owners of the site.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any representative of the owners here? Is there any necessity for that?
The applicant has submitted a letter in the package stating that the owners know about this application and are willing to lease it pending site plan approval.
And the applicant will be responsible for the improvements?
Yes.
I guess my feeling is this, Steve, if the issues that have been raised here can be addressed to the planner's satisfaction before the next meeting, I would refer this to an acceptable level of information and like to proceed with a substantial review of the plan, assuming that the additional information is submitted before the next meeting.
I guess as a matter of clarification, I don't think I'm alone when I say that we're torn between trying to encourage the use of the site in downtown Cape Elizabeth and making sure that the proposed use is well planned. That's our role. We are also in a, from an ordinance point of view, the applicant's given 4 months, I believe, to submit a complete application. Otherwise, you have to start all over again. To start all over again is not encouraging, by most definitions, a small businessman to use this site. So we're torn in that way. There are items, as just one planner myself, I look at this and I say, well, no, this doesn't seem to be a very complete plan. There are issues that continuously seem to straggle in, and you tell us tonight that there is one more plan that has these items taken care of. We have pretty strict deadlines when information has to be in, and we do that simply so we can proceed in an organized manner. I guess at this point, I'd like to hear opinion of other board members as to the completeness issue itself. Judy, any comment? You're always good with completeness.
On the face of it, I'd say it's incomplete, but again, given the scope of the project, I really don't know how to look at this. I guess part of the thing that gets me is if this were not the time deadline, I really wouldn't have any concern saying, we'll see your plans next month. I'm hesitant to say with a couple $100, too, because that's what it means if we call it incomplete tonight. I also feel, though, uncomfortable saying that this is complete with corrections. To me, it's either complete or not, and I don't really feel like taking the
I think the
role.
board members have to look at it from the point of view of if we state that it's complete or some type of intermediate acceptance with condition, and I'm not even sure how that works. So you get a raised eyebrow from Maureen.
Maybe if I could, this might help. We, like I said, just about all of the items, and then there's this one with the sewage, which have been mentioned as possible incomplete items, have been addressed. And I would have gotten this revised plan to you, which includes these possible incomplete items, if I had received the list of possible incomplete items before this past Friday, which is 2 business days before this meeting. So maybe you could take that into consideration.
I think the ordinance, while not the easiest ordinance in the world to read, is quite complete, and it does give some pretty strong guidelines as to what the issues are that are matters of completeness. Some of the items that are added to our completeness issues are items that we like to see. I mean, if I looked for instance, the handicapped parking, and I don't see in the ordinance specifically where it says handicap, designate handicap, but there is federal law dealing with Americans with disabilities, where those types of designs have to be incorporated in any site, any business, or not any business, certain businesses. The issue of the septic system, without getting into the technical merit, any business that utilizes butterfat, septic systems are always a concern. You guys should know that. So that is a major concern. There are other items where we have to, as a board, we consider, if we deem this complete, do we have enough information to make prudent judgment on the site plan review itself, or have we put ourselves in a hole saying, no, you have got to go back and at your mercy to try to bring more information forward. Mark?
I'd like to address the issue of completeness. From my review of the materials submitted, I would say that it constitutes a submission of requested materials in the plan. However, there are detail aspects that still need to be resolved. So I guess from that aspect, I would see it as the number of pieces of paper required to be submitted being complete, but that certainly in another at another meeting, I would be specifically looking for resolution of these detail issues. So I guess I would say that the application is complete, but that it wouldn't necessarily be one that we could address in all its technical aspects this evening.
Right, now, and I've certainly repeated several times, we're not here for any technical merit review, and it is a case of completeness. I might ask Maureen if you can give us some guidance as to what, number one, how does the ordinance guide us here? Number two, what potential predicament do we put ourselves in if we accept an application or deem it complete when it's minimally so, and we're really overlooking or waiting for more information to come in?
The ordinance sets a deadline of 4 months, and what that does for you is if you get an application, once it comes before you, you start running into issues of, is it a pending application if other ordinance changes are then adopted? The whole idea of completeness is, supposedly when you go to court and an applicant comes forward with a project, you can go before a judge and say, this application was not even complete, it received no substantive review, therefore any changes that were pending and were adopted while this was being considered by the board have to be reflected in the applicant's application. That's the first thing. Secondly, once you deem the application complete, it sits there, and there's nothing in the ordinance after that either requiring you to act on it or requiring the applicant to move forward on it. So the worst case scenario is someone comes forward with an application, it's deemed complete, and then nothing happens with it from then on. Either the applicant comes back month after month with the same application, you become forced to either deny it or to approve it as it has been presented by the applicant.
Well, this one, something has already happened. We've already addressed the possible items of incompleteness, and we have them right here in this building. And I understand that it's late and you don't want to look at them now, but they are here, and I would hope that you can accept them and prevent us from having to pay another $200 for a resubmission fee. We have them here.
Tom?
I guess I'm not very concerned about the $200. The original correspondence dates back to October, and I think it's really the applicant's responsibility to retain people if the applicant isn't familiar with ordinances and site plan review processes. It's a pretty standard process for most communities, and there are rare exceptions to people who may be individual homeowners who are looking for daycare-type uses. But I think as a business that has 4 outlets, and one of which is located in Maine's largest city, that there should be a familiarity with the process that this board, and particularly our planner, isn't put on the hot seat. And I guess your concern about getting correspondence back from the planner last Friday, it appears to me from the information in our package that there was correspondence back in October, and certainly it was made clear then what the issues were. So I guess, all things considered at this point, Steve, I don't feel compelled to really bend over backwards to meet this issue. If it's really an issue of completeness and it's not complete, I'd say let them come back with a complete package, and let's get the board and the planner off the hot seat and go from there. Particularly in light of paying $1 to $1.50 for an ice cream cone. $200 is not much in the universe in terms of development costs.
I think the point is, your point's well taken. It's a site in the town center. There are standards for site plan review, and any business applicant should be aware of those. If not, hire the consultants to review those. Certainly, listen to other board members' opinion. Any comments, Steve? Been silent to the matter so far.
It seems very simple to me. The application is not complete, so it's as simple as that.
These items listed as possible items of incompleteness were not included on the original the letter that we received on October 20th, which had about 2 pages of incomplete items. And you know, you talked a lot about deadlines, and we had a 4-month deadline which we met, and then for us to be handed this new list of possible incomplete items 2 business days before the scheduled meeting, I think is inherently unfair, and to require us to pay another submission fee because we didn't have time, we weren't given time to address these items, I just don't think it makes much sense.
We have been working on the project for quite a while. For the past couple of months, our surveyor has worked on it. We have had other meetings with the town, and we knew about the 12 or 14 things that you have in front of you from October, which we did act on. It does take some time to get those things accomplished, but we didn't know about these other 5 or 6 things until 2 business days before the meeting. And we did go as far as to go out there Saturday morning with the surveyor and take the site distances, and we've tried to act on it.
Were you aware of when the submission date was, when they were due for this meeting?
For this meeting?
We had a deadline of February 20th, which was 4 months from our original application submission.
The date we was given was 4 months
And
from
we got
that
this-
October 20th
We got
date.
this in February 19th, and on March 12th, we received this letter of possible incomplete items. And we've addressed it as quickly as we could, and we have what we think right here today is a complete application. And if you don't want to look at it now, that's fine. But,
Well, I think you should be well aware that we don't accept, we do have a deadline, and I don't think you've ever been before a municipal planning board that accepts material the night of a meeting. It takes us a great deal of time to review. You've seen the agenda that we had this evening, the amount of information that we have to pour over, and we don't accept the information for this meeting the night of a meeting. There are typically memos and so forth on our podium when we sit down, and we typically don't even include those in the information that we review for any application. I look back to this October 20th letter from Maureen, and it deals with some of the issues that still are not, submitted, dealing with the signage. When you deal with lighting, and that's where it comes to a completeness issue. You've submitted a plan that shows 150-watt bulb here. Does that deem that's complete? Does that put the planning board members or the planning board in a position where we have to make a decision based on the limited amount of information? There's a 150-watt light bulb, and it doesn't give us the radius of the lighting and the other typical information that we receive with an application. Landscaping, we're led to believe that there is no landscaping because there's none added to the plan itself. The septic system is included in the October 20, 1992 letter, and yet it's only this evening where you've got something from Al Frick that we don't have to review. That's the issue that I think what we're dealing with is a planning board. We have time limits that we have to go by, and again, we're torn as far as trying to encourage business sites in the town of Cape Elizabeth and setting the same standards for all applicants that come before us. Mark?
I'd like to add a little bit more to my earlier comments in that, in particular on the septic system, since as part of our briefing on the application, we have a letter from Ernie McVeigh saying that it definitely is an expanded system. I think, given the fact that there is an Al Frick study, would then also require us to see some follow-up from Mr. McVeigh in terms of what he thinks of
In fact,
the Al Frick study.
that's one of the reasons there's an 18-day deadline for submission to the
Right.
planning board, because all of that information is distributed to the town engineer, the public works director, the fire chief, the police chief, code enforcement officer, the town manager, and there's a certain amount of time needed for those staff people to review and get their comments back to me before I send the packages out to you.
Yeah. And furthermore, on the lighting issue, I think that that the proposal would need to have some proposal for lighting, just so that someday this summer we don't walk out there and see a 400-watt metal halide in the front lawn totally by surprise, just that there is some documented what it is. It can always be revised if it's just a first stab at it, and you need to come back in the summer and what you've done isn't enough. But
Yeah, maybe
if you think there's going to be something necessary, we should at least see that, I think.
maybe I should just address that. We didn't want to, put all kinds of lights on there because we don't, and make it like the place is going to be really illuminated, and suddenly you come to a huge lit-up area, but we weren't sure exactly, what we were going to need without the power being on, and seeing how those lights are. And with the landscaping, we like how the site looks. We don't view it as having to go in and change a lot with the landscaping.
There's a tree line on the plan, which I think says that there won't be any development beyond it.
Yeah. I don't personally see the landscaping as an issue of completeness, but more one of final review of the site.
Any other comment? Steve?
One quick one on the lighting. It seems to me that if they want to address the lighting issue, they could have paid the $13 turn-on fee or whatever it is to CMP, turned it on, made a determination of what additional lighting, if any, was necessary. Tried it out.
Judy, do you have a comment?
Just a question for me, Maureen. The town engineer's October 13th, 1992 memo, I assume the applicant received that?
Yes, actually, any time an application is submitted, it automatically goes out to all staff, and once it comes back, that's when I make that determination in consultation with the planning board chair, whether something is complete or not. And we've already paid the engineer for doing that kind of review. That the letter that the engineer sends me always goes out to the applicant. So, in effect, some people will get a letter from me with the town engineer's letter, and sometimes letters from other staff people attached to that. So we do try to give them as much information as possible if it's if it doesn't make it to the planning board because of completeness issues.
So that would have been last October?
Yes.
Okay, then that memo, I would think, in conjunction with the planner's October 20th memo, maybe not always in the same words, but it does outline these issues. Something like the drainage flow arrows might be asking for more information or information in a different way, and I could understand confusion there, but most of these items, if not in the same words, were asked for.
We gave both of those memos to the land surveyor. We told him to address 19-2-10 and more specifically to address those. He did. He met with Maureen several times and asked her if there was anything else that he needed to know in addition to these. There wasn't. We submitted our plan by the deadline, and on Friday we received an additional list of possible incomplete items, and now we're left with that. We have those corrections here.
Excuse me, I would like to address that one comment. I did meet with their land surveyor on several occasions, and this plan is substantially improved from the previous one. However, we did not agree that there were not other things that needed to be submitted. He told me it was his understanding that there were different people who were responsible for different pieces. And in particular, I spoke with him about some of the items that are still missing today. So I just don't want it on the record that I had at any time said that this application was complete for anyone.
I would encourage you, since we have seen these requests for the most part in writing since October, that whether it's yourselves or your consultant to come down and sit with Maureen perhaps one more time, or make a revised plan and get it to her very early so she has plenty of time to get back to you if you need to do further revisions before the submission date so this doesn't catch you again.
February 19th isn't early enough for March 16th meeting, then how early?
I guess I'd like to address that question. As someone who's involved with an architectural firm and site planning firm, we have dealt in applications where we've required to have applications before board 60 days in advance. It's a much more complicated process than it used to be, and Cape Elizabeth is certainly no more complicated than the city of Portland is. From site plan review, the checklists are pretty much consistent from one community to the next. I really think it would behoove the applicant to heed the comments that are being made by the board, and particularly not to rest any more responsibility about the application completeness on the board or the planner. As an old English friend of mine used to say, a wink's as good as a nod to a blind horse. And I guess that's where I'll leave it.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Do I hear a motion for action?
Motion for the board to consider. Be it ordered that based on the plans and materials submitted and facts presented, the application of Beal's Ice Cream for site plan review of a change of use from Christian Farm Market to an ice cream store located at 330 Ocean House Road be deemed incomplete.
Has been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? It's unanimous. The planning board's deemed it incomplete. If you wish to continue with the process, I think you should perhaps heed the comments of the board this evening and proceed with your land planner and with Maureen, our planner. Thank you.
Just to clarify, is that going to resubmission will have to be accompanied with another fee?
I believe so. Thank you. The last item of new business this evening is a Dickinson wall sign request by Dr. Mark Dickinson for dental office wall sign located at 4 Scott Dyer Road, signed ordinance section 21-2-3. Could a representative or the applicant please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit of what you're doing.
Good day, my name is Mark Dickinson. What I'm proposing is a sign at 4 Scott Dyer Road. The sign is 2 feet by 8 feet, a total of 16 square feet. There will be no lighting on the sign. I believe the sign falls within all the dimensions required by the stipulations with the codes. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments? Motions for action?
I have one question.
Tom?
Poor gentleman's been here all night, he also get a question. Are you in the entire building, or are you in the right-hand half of the
I'm
building?
in the right-hand half.
That's what I figured. Okay. No, there are no other questions.
Fifth. Do I hear a motion?
Motion for the board to consider, be it ordered that based on the plans and materials submitted and the facts presented, the request of Dr. Mark Dickinson for a wall sign located at 2 Scott Dyer Road be granted pursuant to section 21-2-3 of the sign ordinance.
It has been moved. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as read, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for being patient and waiting through this discussion. As far as any other business this evening, I just, if you notice in your packet, the list or the outline of workshop information of note, the school building committee, I think, is asked to come before our next workshop. Is that right? Maureen, you might tell them, the board members, a little bit about what they're looking for.
Included in your package is what I call the tentative agenda, and it's my attempt to let you know what may be coming up, but in no way is it guaranteed to be happening. And what the building committee has met with me, I will make a copy of the minutes of that meeting that they have prepared. They were curious about what some of the concerns the board may have, and they've asked to come to the next workshop and just present a concept plan to you and just find out some of the concerns you've had in the past in reviewing school-type plans on the school campus and what you would be looking for in the future.
This is the middle school?
Yeah.
I have a question related to this. A member, Robert Howe, is one of the principals of Terrian Architects, is a member of the building committee. As a building committee type project, I don't feel as though I have a direct conflict, and in fact did not submit my name to the building committee specifically so I would be in a position where I could review the application. I just would like to be clear with the board that the board doesn't perceive any conflict. If so, please let me know.
Thanks for mentioning that, and I think that's in general for new and old board members, that it's a good way to present potential conflicts or bias either ahead of time or at a meeting, just to fully explain it if you can. Once again, I want to welcome the new full members, Judy and Mark, and our new associate members, Peter and Bob. Welcome. Look forward to a good year. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Good night. Thank you. Good night, sweetheart.